The new arrival. The quantum processing core of TerraTech Industries hummed with an energy that reminded Nova of home. As she materialized from her energy state into solid form, her translucent skin sparkled with remnants of quantum particles, a trademark of her Luminian heritage. The security guard at the entrance flinched, his hand instinctively moving toward his weapon before he remembered the memo about the new special consultant. Nova understood his reaction. Luminians were rare on Earth, and their ability to shift between energy and matter states unnerved most humans. She had spent 3 Earth months practicing maintaining a fully solid form, though the effort drained her considerably. Today, her first day at TerraTech, she couldn't afford any slips. Identification, the guard muttered, avoiding direct eye contact with her shifting irises that sparkled like the aurora borealis. Nova produced her credentials, the holographic display showing her Earth-approved work visa and TerraTech clearance. The elevator ride to the 157th floor was silent, despite sharing it with 5 human employees. They pressed themselves against the far wall, whispers barely audible. Can't believe they're hiring their kind now. Heard they can read minds when they're in energy form. Probably here to steal our tech. Nova kept her gaze forward, maintaining her professional composure. She had expected this. Earth was still adapting to interstellar relations, and TerraTech was one of the few companies brave enough to hire non-terrestrial specialists. Their quantum computing division needed her expertise, whether they liked it or not. The doors opened to a vast open-plan office space, where hundreds of engineers and scientists worked on various projects. The buzz of conversation died as Nova stepped out, replaced by a heavy silence. She followed the directions to the director's office, aware of the eyes tracking her movement, the subtle shifts of bodies away from her path. Director Marcus Chen's office stood out from the sterile corporate environment. Unlike the stark whites and chromes of the main floor, his space featured actual plants, real, living organisms that reminded Nova of the bioluminescent forests of her homeworld. He stood as she entered, and unlike everyone else she'd encountered, he met her gaze directly. "Welcome to TerraTech, Nova," he said, extending his hand. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Nova took his hand, careful to maintain her solid form during the contact. "Thank you, Director Chen. I appreciate the opportunity." "Marcus, please." He gestured to a chair. "I've reviewed your work on quantum entanglement enhancement. Fascinating approach, combining Luminian energy manipulation principles with traditional quantum computing." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Nova felt her molecular structure relax slightly. Marcus spoke about her research with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions that showed he'd actually studied her papers, not just skimmed them for talking points. Their discussion was interrupted by a commotion outside. Through the transparent walls, Nova saw a group of employees gathered around her assigned workspace, some laughing, others shaking their heads. One woman was placing something on her desk. Marcus frowned. "Excuse me for a moment." He strode out his office, his authority immediately apparent as the group scattered. Nova watched as he examined whatever had been left on her desk, his expression darkening before he disposed of it in the nearest matter recycler. "I apologize for that," he said upon returning. "Some people fear what they don't understand. But I want you to know that your expertise is valued here, Nova. You were hired because you're the best at what you do, regardless of your origin." Nova nodded, touched by his sincerity. "I understand the challenges, Marcus. Change is difficult for any species. I faced similar reactions before." "That doesn't make it right," he replied firmly. "I'll be assigning you to lead Project Quantum Bridge. It's our most ambitious initiative yet, creating a stable quantum network capable of instantaneous data transmission across interstellar distances. Your unique perspective will be invaluable." As Marcus outlined the project details, Nova felt a strange flutter in her energy matrix, something she'd never experienced before. She attributed it to excitement about the work, but part of her wondered if it was something more. a reaction to this human who treated her not as an alien curiosity, but as a valued colleague. The rest of her first day proved challenging. Her workspace had been isolated from the main cluster of desks, supposedly for safety reasons. Conversations stopped when she approached the quantum lab. Her access codes mysteriously malfunctioned twice. But each time she felt her resolve weakening, she remembered Marcus's words and straightened her posture. As the Earth sunset, casting orange light through the smart-tinted windows, Nova found herself alone in the office, reviewing project specifications. A shadow fell across her desk, and she looked up to find Marcus standing there, his tie loosened after a long day of meetings. "You shouldn't have to work alone," he said quietly. "Would you like to discuss the project over dinner? I know a place that serves synthesized versions of dishes from various worlds. They might even have something close to Luminian cuisine." Nova hesitated, conscious of the implications of being seen with the director outside of work, but the genuine warmth in his expression made that flutter return to her energy matrix. "I'd like that," she replied, allowing herself a small smile. "Though I should warn you, Luminian energy-based cuisine might be a bit too exotic for Earth synthesizers." Marcus laughed, a sound that seemed to resonate with her very particles. "I'm willing to take that risk. After all, isn't that what Terratech is about? Taking risks, pushing boundaries." As they left the office together, Nova felt a spark of hope. Perhaps here, under the guidance of someone who saw beyond physical forms, she could do more than just survive on Earth. She could thrive. Wavelengths of trust. 3 weeks into her position at Terratech, Nova had established a routine. She arrived before dawn, when the office was empty, using the quiet hours to work in her natural energy state. The freedom to shift between forms helped her think more clearly, especially when dealing with complex quantum calculations. This morning, however, her solitude was interrupted by an urgent alert from the quantum core. As she approached the secure server room, her energy form detected unusual fluctuations in the quantum field. The main processor was approaching critical instability, a cascade failure that could wipe out months of research. Without thinking, Nova phased through the security door, her energy form immediately interfacing with the quantum matrix. The scene inside was chaos. Emergency lights flashing, cooling systems failing, and the quantum bits destabilizing at an alarming rate. Security breach in quantum core. Unknown energy signature detected. The AI system blared, not recognizing Nova in her pure energy state. Moments later, Marcus burst through the door with security personnel, stopping short at the site before them. Nova's energy form had merged with the quantum processor, her consciousness spreading through the system like lightning through clouds. To human eyes, it appeared as if the processor was being consumed by swirling, iridescent light. "Hold your positions," Marcus ordered as security raised their pulse weapons. "That's Nova." Inside the quantum matrix, Nova worked frantically to stabilize the deteriorating system. Her Luminian ability to exist as pure energy allowed her to directly manipulate the quantum bits, realigning them one by one. It was dangerous. Any disruption to her energy pattern could scatter her consciousness across the quantum field permanently. "Nova." Marcus's voice seemed to come from far away. "The core temperature is reaching critical levels. You need to get out." But she couldn't stop now. She had identified the problem, a subtle virus in the system designed to trigger a catastrophic failure. As she worked to contain it, she became aware of Marcus ordering the evacuation of the floor, though he remained behind, monitoring her progress. With a final surge of effort, Nova isolated the virus and stabilized the quantum core. She withdrew her energy form, reconstituting her physical body beside the processor. The effort left her weakened, her form flickering between states as she struggled to maintain cohesion. Marcus caught her as she stumbled. "That was either the bravest or most reckless thing I've ever seen," he said, his voice mixing concern with admiration. "The virus," Nova managed to say, her voice fluctuating as she stabilized. "It was planted deliberately. Someone with deep knowledge of our systems." Marcus's expression hardened. I know. This is the third accident this month, though by far the most serious. Someone wants our quantum research to fail. As Nova regained her strength, security teams and system analysts flooded the room. She noticed how Marcus kept his hand supportively at her elbow, seemingly unconscious of the curious looks they were receiving. The board will want a full report, he said quietly. And Nova, what you did today. Thank you. The next few hours were a blur of debriefings and system checks. Nova provided a detailed analysis of the virus, though she carefully omitted the full extent of her interaction with the quantum core. Humans weren't ready to understand how deeply Luminians could merge with their technology. By late afternoon, she sat in Marcus' office, watching as he paced while on a call with the board of directors. Yes, without her intervention, we would have lost everything, he was saying. No, I don't believe her presence compromised a system. In fact, he paused, looking at Nova. I want to promote her to head of quantum security. Nova's form flickered in surprise, a few energy particles escaping before she could contain them. The board's response was clearly negative, based on Marcus's expression. Her unique abilities make her perfect for the role, he continued firmly. And after today's incident, we can't afford to let corporate prejudice override common sense. Either she gets the position, or I resign. The silence that followed was heavy with tension. Finally, Marcus smiled slightly. Thank you for making the right decision. He ended the call and turned to Nova. Congratulations on your promotion. Marcus, you shouldn't have risked your position for me, Nova said, troubled. I didn't. I made a logical business decision to put the most qualified person in charge of protecting our most valuable asset. He sat on the edge of his desk, closer to her than usual. Though I admit, my reasons weren't entirely professional. Before Nova could process that statement, his office door burst open. Dr. Sarah Hayes, head of traditional computing, stormed in, her face flushed with anger. You can't be serious, Marcus. Putting one of them in charge of security. The board must be out of their minds. She glared at Nova. No offense, but your kind can literally become invisible. How can we trust you with our most sensitive data? Dr. Hayes, Marcus's voice was cold. Nova just saved this company from a devastating attack. An attack that, I might add, could only have been orchestrated by someone with internal access and advanced knowledge of our systems. Sarah's face paled slightly. What are you implying? Nothing yet. But as head of quantum security, Nova will be conducting a thorough investigation. I suggest you cooperate fully. After Sarah left, Marcus turned to Nova with a concerned expression. I've made you a target. The old guard won't accept this easily. Nova stood, allowing herself to glow slightly, a sign of determination among her people. I'm used to being a target, but this time I'm not alone. Their eyes met, and that now familiar flutter returned to Nova's energy matrix. Marcus stepped closer, his hand reaching out as if to touch her glowing form, then hesitating. Nova, he said softly, would you like to have dinner again? Not to discuss work this time. The flutter intensified. I'd like that very much. As they left the office together, Nova was acutely aware of the whispers and stares. But for the first time, she didn't try to dim her natural glow. Let them stare. She had earned her place here, not just as an alien consultant, but as someone who could bridge two worlds. And perhaps, she thought, glancing at Marcus, more than just two worlds were being bridged. Quantum entanglement. The restaurant Marcus chose for dinner sat atop the 200th floor of a crystal spire, offering a panoramic view of New Shanghai's glittering skyline. Nova had maintained her solid form throughout the meal, though the strain was beginning to show in subtle flickering at her fingertips. You don't have to hold your form on my account, Marcus said softly, noticing her fatigue. I want you to be comfortable. Nova hesitated, glancing around at the other diners. Humans tend to find our energy form unsettling. I don't. His eyes met hers with an intensity that made her molecular structure vibrate. I find everything about you fascinating. Before Nova could respond, her quantum-enhanced senses detected a surge of hostile energy. She grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him down just as a plasma bolt seared through the space where his head had been. The restaurant erupted in chaos. Security breach in progress. The building's AI announced. Unauthorized weapons detected. Please proceed to the nearest exit. Nova shifted instantly to her energy form, her consciousness expanding to scan the area. 3 attackers, using advanced cloaking technology. She could sense their energy signatures trying to escape through the emergency exits. Marcus, stay down. She called out, her voice echoing with ethereal harmonics in her energy state. She pursued the attackers, passing through walls and floors, tracking their unique energy patterns. The lead attacker turned, firing a quantum disruption weapon, designed specifically to destabilize Luminian energy patterns. Nova barely dodged, feeling the weapon's effect ripple through her consciousness. These weren't random thugs, they knew exactly what she was. She managed to corner one attacker in a maintenance corridor. As she approached, he smiled grimly and activated a device on his wrist. Nova's energy form detected the quantum signature too late. Nova. Marcus's voice came from behind her. He had followed, despite her warning. Get back. It's a quantum collapse generator. The device detonated, creating a localized quantum singularity designed to tear apart energy-based life forms. Nova felt her consciousness beginning to fragment, pulled toward the singularity's heart. In desperate defense, she drew upon abilities she kept hidden even from Marcus. Her energy form expanded explosively, encompassing the entire corridor. For a brief moment, she existed everywhere at once, her consciousness touching every quantum particle in range. She could sense Marcus's neural patterns, his fear for her safety overwhelming his own. She felt the attacker's surprise turn to terror as she surrounded him in pure energy. With enormous effort, Nova contained the singularity, forcing it to collapse in on itself. The strain was immense. She had never attempted anything like this before. As the quantum field stabilized, she pulled her consciousness back into a coherent form, materializing beside the now unconscious attacker. Marcus rushed to her side as she stumbled, her form flickering rapidly between states. That was incredible, he breathed. I've never seen anything like it. Nova tried to respond, but found herself unable to maintain any single form. The quantum disruption had severely damaged her ability to control her transformation. Marcus caught her as she collapsed. I need to get you somewhere safe, he said, lifting her partially solid form. I know someone who might be able to help. Hours later, Nova regained consciousness in an unfamiliar laboratory. Ancient paper books lined the walls, a rarity in this digital age. An elderly Asian woman in a traditional kipao was monitoring her quantum signature. Ah, you're stabilizing, the woman said. I'm Dr. Lin. Marcus brought you to me because I'm one of the few quantum physicists who's actually studied Luminian physiology. Nova tried to speak, but could only manage to emit a soft glow. Dr. Lin nodded understanding. The attack disrupted your quantum coherence, but more importantly, it proved what Marcus suspected. Someone at TerraTech is trying to eliminate both of you. She glanced at Marcus, who hadn't left Nova's side. The quantum collapse generator used proprietary TerraTech technology that officially doesn't exist yet. Marcus's hand found Nova's, seemingly unbothered by its occasional shifts between solid and energy states. We need to talk about what happened in that corridor, Nova. What you did, it shouldn't have been possible according to everything we know about Luminian abilities. Nova managed to stabilize enough to form words. My people, we don't share everything with humans. The true extent of our quantum manipulation abilities would frighten most of your kind. But you trusted me enough to show me, Marcus said softly. Why? Before Nova could answer, Dr. Lin's security systems blared a warning. Multiple vehicles approaching. TerraTech security signatures. They're coming for her, Marcus said grimly. They'll claim it's for her own protection, but after tonight. Dr. Lin moved swiftly to a bookshelf, pulling a hidden lever that revealed a secret room. This chamber is quantum shielded. They won't be able to detect her energy signature here. But Nova had already made her decision. With tremendous effort, she pulled herself into solid form. No more hiding, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. It's time Terratech learned exactly what a Luminian can do when protecting something they care about. Marcus stared at her for a moment before a slow smile spread across his face. We'll face them together. He turned to Dr. Lin. Can you get word to the board members? The ones who supported Nova's promotion. They need to know what's happening. Dr. Lin nodded. I'll do better than that. I'll show them everything my senses recorded from tonight's attack, including the quantum signature of that weapon, which I believe will match perfectly with Dr. Hayes' secret projects. Nova stood straighter, her form now fully stable. Through the window, she could see Terratech's security vehicles surrounding the building. In her past, she had always chosen to retreat when faced with human hostility. But now, looking at Marcus, she felt something stronger than fear. Whatever happens, Marcus said, I want you to know that meeting you changed everything. Not just for Terratech, but for me. Nova let her form glow slightly, a Luminian expression of deep emotion. Among my people, we have a saying. Some quantum entanglements are meant to be permanent. Marcus's eyes widened at the implication, but before he could respond, the building's security system announced, warning. Terratech's security forces breaching main entrance. Truth and transformation. The sound of heavy boots echoed through Dr. Lin's laboratory as Terratech's security forces ascended the building. Nova stood beside Marcus, her form emanating a soft, determined glow. Dr. Lin worked furiously at her quantum terminal, encrypting and transmitting the attack evidence to trusted board members. Security team approaching level 85, the building's AI announced. 90 seconds to breach. Marcus touched Nova's shoulder, his expression grave. You could phase through the walls, escape. There's no shame in. No, Nova interrupted, her voice resonating with ethereal harmonics. I won't run. Not this time. Not from them, and not from this. She met his eyes, letting him see the swirling cosmos in her irises. Not from us. The laboratory door burst open. A squad of security officers filed in, led by none other than Dr. Sarah Hayes herself. She wore a prototype quantum-dampening suit, its surface crawling with energy-suppressing fields. Nova of Lumina. Sarah announced formally, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, unauthorized access to quantum systems, and the attempted murder of Director Chen. That's absurd. Marcus stepped forward, but Nova gently moved him aside. Is it? Sarah smiled coldly. We have footage of an energy being attacking the restaurant, and who else but a Luminian could phase through our security? The board has already approved emergency containment protocols. Dr. Lin spoke up from her terminal. Interesting timing, Dr. Hayes. The board received evidence of your involvement in the restaurant attack mere seconds ago, including the quantum signature of your illegal weapons program. Sarah's smile faltered for just a moment. Arrest them all, she ordered her team, and initiate quantum suppression fields. Full power. The air crackled as invisible energy barriers sprang up, designed to prevent Nova from shifting forms or facing through matter. She felt the pressure immediately, like 1,000 tiny hooks trying to tear her consciousness apart. But Sarah had made a crucial mistake. In her determination to trap Nova, she'd overlooked Dr. Lin's lifetime of studying Luminian physiology. The old scientist had already adapted her lab's quantum shielding to protect Nova from the worst effects. You never understood, Nova said, her form beginning to shine brighter despite the suppression fields. You saw my abilities as a threat because you couldn't control them. But there's so much more to being Luminian than just shifting forms. She raised her hands, and suddenly every piece of quantum-enabled technology in the room began to glow with the same iridescent light as her body. Screens flickered, devices sparked, and even Sarah's dampening suit started to malfunction. That's impossible, Sarah gasped, backing away. The suppression fields cannot contain what they don't understand, Nova finished. Her consciousness expanded, not to phase through walls this time, but to interface with every quantum circuit in range. Through them, she could sense the truth. Sarah's conspiracy reached deep into Terratech, a network of xenophobes determined to keep humanity's technological advancement pure from alien influence. Marcus watched in awe as Nova's light spread throughout the laboratory, illuminating the hidden connections of quantum technology that humans had only begun to comprehend. The security team's weapons suddenly powered down, their quantum cores going dark. "This is what you feared," Nova addressed Sarah and her conspirators. "Not that I would steal your secrets, but that I would show you how limited your understanding still is. Your quantum technology is like a child's first steps, beautiful and important, but only the beginning." Through her expanded awareness, Nova sensed another presence entering the building. Board members, accompanied by federal agents. Dr. Lin's evidence had worked faster than expected. Sarah must have realized it too. She pulled out a final device, a quantum deadman's switch. "If I can't protect Terratech from alien corruption, I'll shut it all down. Every quantum core in the building will overload simultaneously." Nova felt Marcus tense beside her, ready to act, but she sent him a gentle pulse of reassurance through the quantum field. She could sense the device's structure, its primitive attempt to manipulate quantum states. With careful precision, she began to disconnect its fatal connections one by one. "Your greatest mistake," Nova said softly, "was believing that because something is different, it must be inferior or threatening." The device in Sarah's hand crumbled to dust, its quantum components completely neutralized. Federal agents burst into the laboratory, quickly taking control of the situation. As Sarah and her conspirators were led away, Nova gradually pulled her consciousness back, her glow dimming to its usual gentle luminescence. She turned to find Marcus staring at her with an expression she'd never seen before: wonder, admiration, and something deeper that made her energy matrix flutter intensely. "You could have done that at any time," he said quietly. "Shown everyone what you're truly capable of. Why didn't you?" Nova shifted slightly closer to him, allowing her energy field to harmonize with his bioelectric signature, the closest her people could come to a human embrace while in energy form. Because true understanding can't be forced. It has to be earned, through trust and, she hesitated, then finished softly, through love. Marcus reached out, his hand passing through her energy form in a way that sent pleasant ripples through her consciousness. "I think I'm starting to understand." Dr. Lin cleared her throat. "The board members will want to speak with both of you. And Director Chen, I believe you have some explaining to do about the true potential of human-Luminian cooperation." Nova reformed into her solid state, taking Marcus's hand properly this time. "We have a lot to teach each other," she said, "if both sides are willing to learn." As they left the laboratory together, Nova realized that this crisis had done what months of careful integration had not. It had forced both humans and Luminians to confront their assumptions about each other. The road ahead would not be easy, but with Marcus beside her, she was ready to light the way. "Nova," Marcus said as they stepped into the elevator, "about that Luminian saying regarding permanent quantum entanglements." She smiled, letting her form shimmer with happiness. "Yes. I think I'm ready to learn more about that too." Paradigm shift. The weeks following the confrontation at Dr. Lin's laboratory brought sweeping changes to Terratech. The boardroom of the company's highest floor, usually reserved for human executives, now shimmered with the presence of both solid and energy state beings. Nova sat, or rather existed in a contained energy state, beside Marcus as they presented their vision for the future of human-Luminian cooperation. "The quantum processing capabilities we've achieved by integrating Luminian insights have exceeded our most optimistic projections," Marcus explained to the assembled board members and new Federal Oversight Committee. Behind him, Holographic displays showed unprecedented improvements in quantum computing efficiency. Nova shifted seamlessly into her solid form to address the room. But more importantly, we've discovered that true innovation comes not from one species teaching another, but from genuine collaboration. She could sense the mixture of awe and lingering apprehension in the room. The exposure of Sarahay's conspiracy had forced Terratech to confront its deep-seated xenophobia, but change wouldn't happen overnight. Still, there was progress. 3 new Luminian scientists had joined the company, and human employees were slowly learning to see their energy state colleagues as people rather than threats. After the meeting, Nova and Marcus walked through the quantum research floor together. The space had been redesigned to accommodate both physical and energy state workers, with quantum-sensitive areas where Luminians could work in their natural form without disrupting human technology. Dr. Lin's paper on human Luminian quantum synchronicity is causing quite a stir in the scientific community, Marcus commented, watching a human and Luminian scientist collaborating on a complex quantum algorithm. Though I noticed you left out certain details about your more impressive abilities. Nova smiled, her form shimmering slightly. Some knowledge needs to be earned gradually. My people have learned that lesson over millennia of contact with other species. They reached Marcus's office, now equipped with quantum-stabilized fields that allowed Nova to shift forms freely without affecting the electronics. As the door closed behind them, she let her solid form dissolve, her consciousness expanding comfortably in the space. The board approved our joint leadership proposal, Marcus said, sitting at his desk while Nova's energy form danced like Aurora Borealis around the room. You'll be officially named co-director of quantum operations next week. Worried about sharing power with an alien? Nova teased, her voice resonating with harmonic overtones in her natural state. Marcus laughed, reaching out to pass his hand through her swirling energy pattern, a gesture that had become intimate between them. Worried about how much paperwork 2 directors have to sign off on. His expression grew more serious. Nova, there's something else we need to discuss. The Luminian High Council contacted us this morning. They're concerned about how much of your abilities you revealed during the confrontation with Sarah. Nova condensed her form slightly, focusing her consciousness. They fear humans aren't ready for the full truth of what we can do. Are they right? She considered the question carefully, watching the city lights begin to twinkle through the office windows as dusk approached. Humans fear what they don't understand, but they also have a remarkable capacity for adaptation. Look how much has changed in just a few weeks. Moving closer, she shifted back into solid form, standing before his desk. Besides, I trust you, more than any being I've ever known. Marcus stood, walking around the desk to face her. Then trust me with the truth. All of it. No more diplomatic half-measures. Nova took a deep breath, then did something she'd never done before. She let her form shift into what her people called the unity state, neither fully solid nor pure energy, but a harmonious blend of both. Her skin became translucent, showing the swirling cosmos within, while maintaining human form. This is who I really am, she said softly. We Luminians don't just shift between states. We exist in all states simultaneously. We can perceive and interact with every level of reality, from quantum to cosmic. She held out her hand, and a miniature galaxy swirled above her palm. We are bridges between matter and energy, form and void, reality and possibility. Marcus stayed in wonder, then slowly reached out to touch her hand. Instead of passing through, he felt a warm, solid connection, even as his fingers seemed to touch starlight itself. Beautiful, he whispered. Nova felt her energy matrix pulse with emotion. The High Council believes humans would try to weaponize this knowledge. That fear would drive them to try controlling or containing us. They might, Marcus admitted. Some humans would certainly try. But others would see the possibility for something greater. He intertwined his fingers with hers, solid and energy interweaving. The chance to learn, to grow, to understand the universe in new ways, to connect. Nova's form shimmered with joy. That's why I chose to stay, even before all this happened. I saw that potential in you, in humanity, the capacity to move past fear toward wonder. And here I thought you stay for my charming personality, Marcus teased. That too, Nova laughed, the sound like chimes in a quantum wind. She let her form shift back to fully solid, but maintained the connection of their hands. The High Council will have to accept that change is inevitable. Humans and Luminians are already quantum entangled. Our futures are linked. Looking out at the city skyline, where other Luminians could now be seen flying between buildings in their energy forms, Nova felt a profound sense of rightness. The path ahead would have challenges, but facing them together, truly together, made all the difference. Speaking of quantum entanglement, Marcus said, drawing her attention back, "Remember that permanent bond you mentioned?" Nova's heart raced, yes. He smiled, pulling her closer. "I think I'm ready to learn exactly what that means." Beyond the stars. 1 year after the confrontation that changed TerraTech forever, the company's quantum research facility hosted an unprecedented event, the first human Luminian quantum bonding ceremony. The vast atrium had been transformed, its quantum-enhanced walls shifting between states to accommodate guests in both physical and energy forms. Nova floated in her unity state before the assembled crowd, her form a perfect blend of matter and energy that reflected the starlight streaming through the transparent ceiling. Beside her, Marcus stood in a suit embedded with quantum reactive threads that shimmered in harmony with her energy field. Dr. Lin, now serving as a ceremony officiant, addressed the gathered humans and Luminians. Today we witness not just the union of two beings, but the symbol of what's possible when we move beyond our preconceptions and fear. The past year had brought remarkable changes. TerraTech had become a pioneer in human-Luminian integration, with joint research teams making breakthrough after breakthrough. The Quantum Processing Center, now co-managed by both species, had achieved computing capabilities that seemed impossible just months ago. But more importantly, attitudes had shifted. Where once Nova had walked through suspicious whispers, now human employees casually chatted with Luminians in both solid and energy states. The corporation had become a model for other companies, proving that cooperation yielded better results than fear. Nova's consciousness expanded slightly, letting her energy field brush against Marcus's quantum-enhanced suit. She could sense his excitement and nervousness, his bioelectric field synchronizing naturally with her energy pattern after months of practice. In accordance with both human and Luminian traditions, Dr. Lin continued, "Marcus and Nova will now perform the quantum entanglement ritual." Nova shifted fully into her energy state, her consciousness expanding to fill the atrium while maintaining her visible form. Marcus removed a small quantum crystal from his pocket, a piece of technology that had taken both species' best scientists months to perfect. With this crystal, Marcus spoke, his voice clear and confident, "I offer my quantum signature to be eternally entangled with yours." The crystal began to glow as he held it up, responding to Nova's energy field. She enveloped it gently with her consciousness, careful not to overwhelm the delicate device. "And I offer my energy pattern," Nova's voice resonated through the room, "to harmonize with yours across all states of being." The crystal pulsed brightly as their quantum signatures synchronized. For the assembled humans, it appeared as if Marcus was standing within an aurora borealis, while the Luminians present could sense the deep quantum bonds forming between the couple. Dr. Lin smiled. "The quantum signatures have aligned perfectly. By the laws of both Earth and Lumina, and by the fundamental forces that bind our universe together, I now pronounce you quantum-bonded partners." The crowd erupted in a unique mixture of human applause and Luminian energy pulses. Nova shifted back into her unity state, taking Marcus's hands in hers as the crystal continued to pulse between them, now permanently attuned to both their patterns. "I never imagined this was possible," Marcus whispered, looking into her cosmos-filled eyes. "That's exactly why it is possible," Nova replied. You learn to imagine new possibilities. Their first kiss as a bonded couple sent ripples through the quantum field that made every piece of technology in the building flicker briefly. The assembled two minions pulsed with approval. Such a strong quantum resonance was considered a very good omen. Later, at the celebration that followed, Nova and Marcus found a quiet moment on the observation deck. Below them, New Shanghai glittered with both electrical and quantum lights, humans and Luminians, moving through the cityscape in harmony. The High Council finally approved our joint research proposal, Nova said, letting her form shift between states as she relaxed. They're sending a delegation of Luminian quantum masters to work with our teams. Marcus wrapped an arm around her, now completely comfortable with her transformations. And the human governments agreed to establish the first human Luminian cultural exchange center right here at Terra Tech. She smiled. Though I suspect having the first human Luminian marriage on record helped convince them we're serious about cooperation. Marriage, quantum bonding, Marcus grinned. We're collecting quite a few firsts. Nova turned to face him, her form settling into the unity state he'd grown to love so much. There's another first we haven't announced yet. She took his hand and placed it against her midsection, letting him feel the subtle quantum fluctuations within. It seems humans and Luminians are more compatible than anyone thought possible. Marcus's eyes widened as he processed what she was telling him. You mean? She nodded, her form glowing with joy. The quantum masters are very excited to study it. The first human Luminian child. Our child will be a bridge between worlds in every sense. Marcus pulled her close, their quantum signatures harmonizing perfectly through the crystal they both wore. I love you, he whispered, in every state of being. Above them, the stars twinkled in the night sky, witnesses to a love that had transcended not just species, but the very boundaries of matter and energy. Nova looked at her quantum-bonded partner, the human who had first seen her for who she truly was, and felt her consciousness pulse with happiness. Ready for our next adventure? She asked. Marcus smiled. With you, always. Their story had become more than just a tale of workplace romance or even human-alien cooperation. It was proof that love, understanding, and acceptance could bridge any gap, break any barrier, and transform not just two lives, but entire worlds. As they stood together, watching their transformed city gleam beneath the stars, Nova and Marcus represented something powerful, the truth that when fear gives way to love, anything is possible, even a future where energy beings and humans could build a life together, one quantum leap at a time. The end.